Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's video. We're working on a 2001 Ram 3500, and today we're going to be swapping out the turbo housing. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to be putting this turbo cartridge inside of that turbo. Let me go ahead and pull off this and show you why we're doing it, and then we're going to go ahead and get into this install. Went ahead and took our intake area off, and basically, as you can see, he does not look too happy in there. So that's a little bit of residual oil, which means the seals are going out. And the most concerning part about this whole thing is there's actually some shaft play going on, so it definitely moves up and down. And the biggest clue to this, when you're in high boost and in low gear, so it's really trying to push a lot of air, gives a nice smooth turbo sound and a pretty gnarly squealy sound, which is never a good sign. It looks like a little bit of dings on the housing. I don't know if you can tell that, but that's why we're pulling this thing out. So, and now that the intake area is off, I'm going to focus on the exhaust bolts next. The first ones I want to get to are these two back ones. If I can, I'm just going to leave this whole back half of the housing on because I heard those four are terrible to get off. So I'm going to go underneath the truck and see if we can't pop off those two exhaust bolts next. Down underneath the truck, what we're trying to get to is that bolt right there and the one on that side. So they are a 13 millimeter. Use a 5-point socket if you can. Don't use the star sides just because you don't want to strip anything. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these out next, and hopefully these will come out pretty easily. Then we'll move on. These are our two bolts. They're both 13 millimeter and they are out now. And you can see where the holes are right there. That's one side and that's the other one. So those are the two we're popping out. Next, let's go to the top. All right, on the top side, next thing I want to do, so now that basically this back half is free, quick FYI, I did drive the truck around before this, so it is pretty warm, and my hope is that it'll help me get all these bolts off properly. So next up, let's see, we're gonna go ahead and detach. I want to detach the intake tube down there, which is a V-band. So we're just going to knock off this guy, and that should be able to get pushed down and detached. Lower turbo intake is off. I guess exit, I don't know. Part of the intake housing. As you can see, there's actually some nice, feels like just solid grease in there. So definitely been ingesting just a little bit of oil. Anyway, so next up, I'm going to go ahead and pop off this oil feed line. I'm going to try and get it on the turbo side. If I can't, I'm going to get it on that side. We'll see what happens. So because I can't win, my stuff is pretty seized on there right now. It's loose, but I can't get this top half to move. So I'm going to leave that tightened down so it don't make a huge mess. And once we get the turbo off, that'll be the last thing I deal with, trying to figure out that thing. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and work on these exhaust bolts next. I'm kind of on a time crunch to the light. So that's what we're doing next. There should be 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is on the back side, which is going to be real depressing to try and get to. So I'll figure that out when I get there. Let's get these top 2 at least for now. So it is a 15 millimeter. I don't know what exhaust gods I prayed to, but these bolts are all coming off easy. Most effective way I'm finding is just to use an extension and basically reach around underneath, and you can clip on and then still have room to rotate your wrench. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. You can see it popping out right there. And that's just a pro tip if you're trying to do this. That's the easiest way I have found as of right now. Let me be the first to explain that my little method a second ago did not work even a little bit for that back bolt because there's stuff in the way. I want to be using the open-ended wrench and reaching in there and getting real acrobatic and hooking it up and then spinning it. And then somehow my bolts are not like crazy rusted. I'm actually able to undo it by hand slowly, so you can see it's actually separated a little bit. And I'm just going to keep working it, and hopefully we can get it off. But just, yeah, that back one, screw that thing. This job sucks immediately. So all 4 of those are out now. And next I'm going to work on this oil return line, which is right there. And it looks like there's 2 bolts on either side of it. It's kind of a oval type fitting. I think they're going to be a 10. I'm going to see about that. Hopefully I don't create the new Gulf oil spill over here. So let's go send it. Knock those out. They were indeed 10 millimeter, and they both are vertical. They sit directly under this housing facing up. Went ahead and used a swivelly wrench like this and got it. So on to the next. Now I think I'm going to undo this last bolt. We're going to try and get this line out of here. This is the last real big issue I got to figure out. I might just wind up twisting the turbo to get it off. I don't know yet. We'll see. Oh, and the reason I haven't taken this out is because this bottom bolt right now is stuck and stripped. Yes, so I can't move this stupid box out of the way, or I'd have more room. If you can, awesome on you. I'm unable to right now. All right, so this is her. Good grief, the thing was actually pretty good. If you have a rusted truck, I'm gonna be dead honest, may God have mercy on your soul, because this is gonna suck for you. But mine came out pretty good, so it's out now. I'm gonna take it down to the workshop and workbench rather, and a workshop I wish. And we're gonna figure out what the heck to do with this thing now. Down at the workbench now, so we're gonna try and figure out how to disassemble this thing. And as you can see, right now this is the core, and basically we're gonna be doing that. So we got to get all the exhaust housing off and the intake side. Watched a couple videos on this, so we're just gonna go ahead and send it. I'm gonna throw you guys on time lapse for this part and figure it out. So let's get started. To me using a metal hammer on metal pieces. One, I wasn't hitting it that hard, and two, I literally watched a turbo rebuild YouTube channel do a rebuild on one of these, and they sat on the ground and hit it with a freaking 5-pound sledge to get this thing off. So I don't feel bad about a little tiny couple ounce hammer hitting it, and as long as I don't hit any threads or anything like that, I mean, it's fine. Go ahead down with it, not trying to squash anything. Just a quick FYI. But back housing is off, which is sick. There looks to be an alignment pin right there, and let's see, that also exists. Oh, my finger. Also exists on our new turbo right there, so sick. Now let's figure out how to get this thing off, which is going to be the fun, not so fun part. Yeah, actually not too, I don't really feel anything in the front end of this, which is interesting because it's bearings on the other side. Is what it is. Let's go ahead and figure out how to get this thing. Alright, so aside from continuing to use Harbor Freight jack stands, that was probably one of the sketchiest things I've done in my life as far as close to instant death with that freaking snap ring. But she's off now, so check it out. Seals are probably going in this thing, which is where all the oil's coming from. And then looking at the old housing, I mean, here she is, nothing too crazy. Alright, so I just want to give you guys a look at this thing, and I'm going to try and get to the light real quick. So yeah, there she is. Not too bad. A little bit of scarring. It looks like just a hair, but actually in pretty good shape. And there's the back end. Went ahead and hit with some WD-40 and stuff to clean it up a little bit. Yeah, guys, there she is. So let's go ahead and get it back together. All right, so actually going back together is less sketchy than coming apart. Basically, what it is, I shoved this end down first, and then I was actually able to close it by hand to get it wedged in here, and then I just took a little nail and, not the nail, took the screwdriver like this and pretty much just popped it until it slid into place. So it is doable without the pliers, but just get the damn pliers. I didn't realize I was gonna have to do this when I took this apart, so I didn't have them on hand, but there she is. So intake housing is good. All right, so out of the vise, and this is what it looks like. Definitely pretty clean, which is awesome. Now we just got to go ahead and the time lapse on and get this exhaust housing side back on. Pretty sick. All we have to do is line up our little pin right there and then swap over this little screw piece of hardware, which I regret tightening now earlier. And yeah, guys, she's coming together real good. Should have this thing back on the truck tomorrow, which is sick. Okay, and there you have it. So the turbo's back together. New little turbine wheel in there. No play, obviously, because it's a new unit. And we're going to go ahead and go through the Oh, it's actually pretty clean. Sick. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and go through the start procedure tomorrow, which involves, they gave us a nice little syringe. Basically, we're going to put fresh oil into these feed lines. Once we get the bottom one hooked up, we'll throw it through the top one, get it all in and good. And lastly, this line, I was mistaken. So this piece is not frozen or anything. I was just being dumb, and this fitting was coming undone instead of this connection between the two. So I could have gotten that off and left this on the truck, but it is what it is. So we'll put this back on last. We'll screw this back into the bottom, and we should be good to go. So let's get this back together. It's the next day, so we're going to go ahead and continue on with this turbo install. And as you can see where we left off last night, everything is together. So all I got to do, I opened up my seals bag, went ahead and ordered this off Rock Auto. It was like 10 bucks. And then I'm a little bit sketched out about this one, actually. The other one was metal. This one's, I don't know, maybe it's just metal coated. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's just metal coating. Whatever, sorry, unrelated. So first one, this thing, I have no idea what this seal goes to. I will be straight up with you. No clue. So we're going to set that over there. And then we have 2 O-rings, slightly bigger ring. I know one O-ring goes right here, and that's for this side to seal up. One O-ring goes on this side. And then I also don't know where this bigger O-ring goes. Whatever. So I'm going to do the ones that I can find. If I figure out where the other one goes, sick. If not, it's whatever. I could honestly care less. But just to make sure she don't leak. And that's all we're doing. So let's go ahead and pop in these two, and then we'll bring it up to the truck and put it in. And then right before we put this in, I did want to point out, I definitely did have an exhaust leak going on right here. So that's just something to be aware of. I mean, it's whatever. I wonder if it was actually hearing that or if it just is what it is. But yeah, definitely a little exhaust leak going on. Kind of interesting. I'm going to clean up the surface too before I go ahead and throw it back together. All right, so I just got the turbo back in its little holes. The way I did it is I used this bar right here to push up against the exhaust pipe and move it basically this way. And then I was able to wedge the turbo into place. I don't really know how else to do that without taking off the exhaust, because that thing did not want to go back in. Now we got that back in, I'm going to go ahead and throw these turbo bolts on and pretty much bolt everything back up, and I'll catch you guys when I'm done. Turbo's back in. Pretty much everything is bolted down. Last thing we got to do, the instructions said to go ahead and prime the turbo with fresh oil, so we're going to go do that. Came with this nifty little syringe right here. And then once we do that, it says to go ahead and crank the engine over for about 15 seconds to build some oil pressure to get it running through it. However, I don't really have a good way to do that without it firing up, because even if I disconnect the check valve, all that's going to happen is my freaking pump's going to run dry, and that's really dangerous on these things for fuel pumps to run dry, the high pressure side. So I'm not going to do that, because I do not want to get air in the lines and a bunch of other crap. So what I'm going to do instead is pretty much prime it, make sure there's plenty of oil in the turbo housing and all the gears are covered. And once it cranks up, it's going to send oil through this tube and into there. I'll throw a little extra oil down here just to make sure everything's good, but we should be good to go, guys. So let's go ahead and prime this thing real quick and start it. Back together, let's go fire it up. Pretty much says once you get everything together, everything's primed, fire it up and run it for about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes at idle before getting in a boost or anything. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and then shut it off. I want to leave this off just to see how everything looks. Not that I can do anything if there's a problem, but you know what, it looks cooler with it off. And then we'll throw the air intake back on and all that stuff. Well, there you have it, guys. So I'm gonna go let this do its thing. That's gonna do it for today's video, so I'll see you in the next one. Leave any comments down below or anything like that if you have any questions about this. Pretty straightforward process in all honesty. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.